Hello Booktube and welcome to Willow's book Apothecary. I'm your literary host, Willow. Today I will be doing the Mbti book tag. In other words, that is the Myers-Briggs inventory test book tag. If you have never taken the Myers-Briggs test, I will link it in the description box below. Basically what it is a personality quiz or test. It's a formal test that basically puts you into a archetype of sorts. There's 4 letters within the acronym. For myself, I am an INFJ. So I am an introvert, I am an intuitive, I operate in the world based on my feelings, and I am a judgmental person. It's not as bad as it sounds, I hope. So I am an INFJ. In other words, I am a nurturer, I'm a counselor, I am a caretaker, I am the warm and fuzzy, I am a Hufflepuff, if that gives you any indication of what an INFJ kind of looks like. The original tag for this video was by Jaded Reader. I will link that in the description box as well if you would like to check it out. So the prompt for this book tag just asks me to answer questions for each letter of the acronym. So I will be answering questions based off my INFJ as well as one all-encompassing question. So without further ado, let's take a look. So the first prompt is for my Introvert Acronym, and the question asks, you can be outgoing but need to recharge with some calming solitude. Where is your favorite place to read and unwind? Why is this little oasis where you choose to go? So I recently moved back to my hometown last month, and I think I would have answered this question very differently a month ago, but this is the truth for where it stands now. I read from my bed 95% of the time. The last thing I want right now is to go to Meijer or, my local grocery chain and run into 10 people from high school, because that is inevitably what happens. So every time I step out the door, it's a kind of a smallish town, I guess, I risk running into someone that, I'd rather not. So usually I'm reading in bed. I'm more of a homebody these days, but the other 5% of the time, I really enjoy going to my local library. I usually go there a few times a week, and downtown Detroit also has some beautiful cafes, coffee shops, bakeries, and little scenic areas where I like to escape to once in a while. Say nice things about Detroit, guys. So the second prompt is my N, which stands for intuition. And the prompt here is, some books are meant to be understood and others are meant to be explored. What book stands for an idea that is deeply meaningful to you? So why choose one book when you can choose 3? I have chosen 3 books that I have read throughout my social work education, and they are all beautiful, they're all very meaningful, and most importantly is I feel like they are really having an impact on the world. So I am so excited to share them with you. The first book for my intuition prompt is The Center Cannot Hold by Ellen Sachs. This is Ellen Sachs's memoir. She was a brilliant student who developed schizophrenia, and to the point where her prognosis was extremely, extremely grim. They didn't know if she would actually make it. So this is about her battle through schizophrenia, and guess what? Spoiler alert, she conquers life. It takes her a really long time, but she is now a well-renowned professor of law, and she is an advocate for mental health rights within the United States. I mean, this is a victorious book about her life. You can see I've definitely made a lot of comments within the book, annotations, because it is just like, yes, you go girl. So definitely a wonderful read if you're into mental health advocacy. The second book that I would like to share with you for the intuition prompt is To Repair the World by Paul Farmer. Paul Farmer is a doctor and a civil rights or social activist, I should say, who goes around the world and he works with people who do not have access to safe drinking water. They don't have access to healthcare or education or other basic human rights. So this is a compilation of speeches that he has given throughout his life, and it really just sheds light on how much we really take for granted. Living in the Great Lakes state, it doesn't faze me to walk up to any of the multiple sinks in my house and turn a faucet and get safe drinking water, clean drinking water. So it is imperative that we take a wider step back and look at what's happening within the rest of the world. We want to make the world a more safe and humane place, and that is something that Paul Farmer, spells out beautifully within this book. The final book for the intuition prompt is Outrageous Acts and Everyday Rebellions by Gloria Steinem. You guys, Gloria Steinem is my absolute queen. I adore her. For those of you who are not familiar with Gloria Steinem, she is a feminist, a journalist, a social and civil rights activist, and she played a major role in the women's liberation movement in the 1960s and 70s. I try to embody what she is. Definitely one of my biggest role models. That said, within this specific book, she writes about when she went undercover as a Playboy bunny in one of Hugh Hefner's clubs to expose what's really going on behind the scenes with the bunnies and how the bunnies are treated by, the patrons of the Playboy bunny clubs. So if you are interested in women's rights, Gloria will not let you down. The third letter of my acronym is F for feeling, and the prompt is, not everything needs to be realistic. Where is the fun in a world with limits? Which fantasy world do you find so atmospheric you slip inside and never want to leave? I'm sure that anyone who knows me already knows how I'm going to answer this, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the entire, all the movies, all the books, all of the everything, but I'm gonna specifically choose the first book, and here's why. I love the wholesome, I love the magical and wholesome environment and vibes in the first book. Everything after the first and second book kind of gets a little bit heavy, but in the first book you get to walk through Diagon Alley for the first time. You get to, step into platform 9 3/4 for the first time. You get sorted into your house. You get to walk the halls of Hogwarts and explore. And, I feel like the damage done to Harry in this book is obviously the least traumatic. He went from being neglected and abused with the Dursleys to going into this magical world, and then that stuff with Voldemort in the end. So I really like the childish and fun and happy-go-lucky aspect to the first book. So if I could choose, I would definitely, play wizard's chess with Harry Potter in this first book. Oh, and have I mentioned that I'm a Hufflepuff? The final letter within my acronym is J, and that stands for judging. And so the prompt for this is, oh my god, I laughed so hard when I read this. Okay. All play and no work leads to chaotic disorder and anarchy. How do you structure and balance your reading, booktube, and personal life to better use your time? Guys, time management is not necessarily one of my fortes right now. Like a half hour ago, I was drinking Burners and listening to the Shrek 2 soundtrack, so I'm a wing it kind of woman. So I've got nothing for you on this one. Sorry, guys. So the final prompt is specifically for my MBTI type. So this is the question for the INFJs out there, the counselor roles. We are a bit odd, but we are also filled with intuition and empathy. What is a book you'd recommend to a friend having a hard time? So for this prompt, it's hard, you know, because life is so multi-dimensional. How do you pick a book or 2 books or 3 books for a friend who's having a hard time? That's too vague for me. So I decided to pick an author, and I decided to go with R.H. Sin. Now, R.H. Sin writes poetry, and I'm sure he has way more books than this at this point, but this is what I have by him right now. I think that when you're going through a hard time in life, poetry is a lot easier to digest. There's a lot less to read, and there's little nuggets of wisdom that you can pick up within each poem, or, you know, flip to a certain section that kind of resonates with what you're going through in life. And as I've mentioned in my previous videos, I am going through like the biggest phoenix rising phase of my life thus far. I'm sure there will be many more. And I have found a lot of comfort in poetry. So I feel that I would recommend one of R.H. Sin's books to a friend so they can kind of find what they're looking for, to bring them peace, to validate their feelings or their emotions that maybe they weren't able to put into words beforehand. So I'm just really quick gonna show you which books I do have by him. So I have his 3, I don't know how many he has now, but I have Whiskey, Words, and a Shovel Part 1, Whiskey, Words, and a Shovel Part 2, and Whiskey, Words, and a Shovel Part 3. And then I also have A Beautiful Composition of Broken, Rest in the Morning, and oh god, Algedonic? Alright, I know I mispronounced that. It is time for the obligatory poem within my videos. Like I said in my last video, this is just my thing now, you know? You can always skip over it, but I think it's one of my favorite parts of my videos because it helps encompass what I am going through in my life, and it's a form of comfort to me. So I am going to be sharing with you a very quick snippet from Whiskey, Words, and a Shovel Part 1 on page 187. The title of the poem is A Search for Love. So many angels are going through hell in search of love, dating demons. Basically sums it up. I guess I'm feeling a little bit spicy tonight. Who doesn't love a little bit of heartache now and then? No one ever, but you know. Okay, spicy time aside, sorry about that. So I want to know from you, Booktube, what is your MBTI type? Have you taken the quiz before? Have you taken it a couple times? Has it changed throughout your life? I find that being an INFJ is very consistent for me, but I have grown a lot within that archetype. With every tag, you know, I would like to tag all the booktubers who are watching this, who have not done this tag yet. I put out new content every Thursday. Happy reading, Booktube.